Hello and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be talking about the book Start With Why by Simon Sinek. And before we dive into the book itself, let's ask the question of why we should even care about the book. Earlier this year, I graduated, and for the first time in my life, I felt a sense of uncertainty and a lack of guidance. I had the freedom to do and pursue whatever it is that I wanted, but I just wasn't sure what it is that I wanted. I was a graduate with a degree and little passion for what I just spent the past 4 years of my life working towards. Since reading this book, I've gained a greater sense of clarity, and that uncertainty I felt earlier this year is no longer there. This video is for anyone that feels like they've just been going through the motions of life and are lacking any sort of guidance. If you want to learn how you can apply the principles Sinek lays out in this book, then stick around. Let's dive in. The very core theory of this book is based on how we choose to influence action. This can be the action of others and ourselves. Every day we interact with others and try to influence how they act and how they think. The same goes for ourselves. We are constantly trying to influence our own behavior. Sinek claims that there are two primary ways that we try to influence behavior. The first is through manipulations. Manipulations offer a positive incentive or the threat of a consequence. This sounds a lot more sinister than it actually is and can be found throughout our lives. Companies will offer promotions to sell you a product. Your friends will tell you about a new restaurant that just opened up that you just need to try. And we'll tell ourselves that we just need to get through the week so that we can finally enjoy the weekend. There are 6 forms of manipulation: price, promotion, peer pressure, novelty, fear, and aspirations. You don't need to remember these manipulations, rather acknowledge that they are the primary way we choose to influence behavior. The alternative is to influence through inspiration. To effectively inspire, we need to understand what Sinek calls the golden circle. The golden circle starts on the outside with what. What's are easy to understand. They are the results of actions. Moving in a level, we have how. How is commonly taught in marketing classes as how we differentiate and how we explain one thing is better or different than the other. At the center of the circle, we have why, and very few of us understand why. Whys are our core purpose, cause, or belief. When most of us communicate, we start at the outside of the circle and we'll move our way in. We'll state what, maybe how, and then we'll have a call to action. Take my last video, for example. I said I make videos that focus on personal development. If that interests you, stick around. That message wasn't very inspirational or attention-grabbing. Now contrast this with how great leaders speak. They start from the inside and will move their way out. Instead, I could have said, I believe each and every one of us deserves to live our lives to the fullest. Every day is an opportunity to live better than the last. That by learning from experts in different fields and applying their knowledge to our own lives, we can live better lives. I make videos that break down this knowledge that these experts have and explain them in bite-sized videos. If that sounds interesting, stick around. My what, my how, my call to action were the same. The only difference was I started with why. Sinek claims that the golden circle is not just opinion, but founded in biology. As you can see, I am not a scientist. I am not wearing a lab coat, so I can't speak to whether this has any factual standing in biology. But it at least sounds right. What Sinek is claiming is that our brain resembles the golden circle. At the center of our brain is the limbic region, the area that is responsible for feelings and decision making. As we move out, we get to the neocortex part of the brain, the area that is responsible for rational and analytical thought. When we communicate from the outside in, we are directly speaking to the part of the brain that is suited for large amounts of information. But it is not responsible for decision making, and so we must rely on manipulations, adding incentives and fear to drive the behavior that we are looking for. When we communicate from the inside out, we are first directly speaking to the part of the brain that is responsible for decision making. We then provide the what and the how so that we can effectively rationalize and communicate our decision. The beauty of this is that we no longer have to seek out best, because best is relative. What's better, a Ferrari or a minivan? Well, if you want to get your family from point A to point B as safely as possible, you're gonna want the minivan. You're gonna need a lot of duct tape to strap little Timmy to the back of your Ferrari. This just goes to show that it doesn't matter what we choose as long as it is in line with our why. The same goes for our own lives. It doesn't matter what we do as long as that is in line with our why. Sinek offers a little mind game to illustrate this point. It's called the celery test. Imagine you're going to a party and it's full of successful people. The perfect opportunity to ask them, what made you so successful? So you get to the party and you start talking and you ask the question, what made you so successful? And the first person responds, celery. You ask the next person and they say M&Ms. The third person says Oreos. The final person you get to talk to says that cherry tomatoes were the key to their success. So the next day you're excited and you go out to the grocery market and you add all these items to your cart. But to anyone walking by, it's not clear what your why is just by looking at the items in your cart. But let's say that your why was to live a healthy lifestyle. You can use that why as a filter. Suddenly those M&Ms and those Oreos don't make sense in your cart and you can take them out. Now your cart's full of cherry tomatoes and celery, and to anyone walking by, it's clear what your why is. It's important to constantly be filtering new opportunities through our why, so that our why and our what are constantly in parallel. Otherwise, we risk going through an event Sinek calls the split. This is when we stop pursuing our why and start pursuing our what. Our why goes fuzzy. It doesn't matter how much we achieve, that feeling of success will remain distant. If this happens to you, take a step back and apply the celery test to your life. Are your actions in line with your why? It's finally time to start talking about how we can go about finding our own why. Finding your why is a process that requires time and introspection. It's a process that requires discovery, not invention, meaning you should be going back into your life. Find the moments where you felt the most happy. Find the moments where you felt the most proud. Find the moments where you felt the most meaning. When I went through this process, I realized that I was happiest when I was helping others overcome obstacles and achieve a feeling of success. I realized that my why was to help others succeed. I then used this as a filter to make sure that everything that I was doing was in line with this why. I tutor, I do consulting work, I make these videos. It doesn't matter what I do. In fact, what I do spans a wide range of areas. I do business work, I do educational work, I do creative work. But at the end of the day, everything that I am doing is in line with my why, helping others succeed. I have found that this has given me a greater sense of clarity. I felt less stressed and I felt more happy. I'm not sharing this to brag or to make it seem like I have my life together and that it's perfect, but rather I've seen what a tremendous impact it's had on my life and I want the same for you. If you're considering picking up this book, just know that it was written with a focus on business and marketing. If these subjects don't interest you, I would still highly recommend picking up this book because what Sinek talks about is wildly applicable to many areas of our life. If you do decide to pick up the book, there are links in the description that if you use will help out this channel and help it grow. Hopefully everything in this video has made sense. I know it made sense to me when I was planning it out, but hopefully it's made sense to you. There are three main takeaways I want you to get from this video. The first is that when we communicate from the outside in, it's difficult to evoke action and influence behavior. And that's when we begin to rely on manipulations. Instead, inspire and start with why. 2, finding your why is a process of discovery, not invention. Take the time to do some searching and thinking. 3, it doesn't matter what you do as long as it is in line with your why. Use your why as a filter to guide your actions. If you have any questions or you want to discuss anything, leave them in a comment below and I'd be more than happy to talk about it. Tune in next week where we are going to cover the book Essentialism by Greg McKeown. Thanks for sticking around and learning with me today.